In a city where wealth and struggle lived side by side, few people paid attention to those who moved silently in the background. Among them was Amina, a soft-spoken cleaning lady in her late 50s, who worked long nights in the towering glass building owned by one of the country's most powerful businessmen, Alexander Grant, a reclusive millionaire known for his fierce privacy and unmatched empire. To the world, Alexander was a symbol of success. To Amina, he was simply the man whose office she cleaned every night while whispering quiet prayers for the strength to get through another day. Her life had been nothing but hardship, raising 2 children alone, juggling small jobs, and caring for a sick father. Yet she carried her struggles with grace, never complaining, never asking for more than she was given. One stormy night, when the city streets glistened with rain and thunder rolled like distant drums, Amina arrived at the skyscraper for her shift. The hallways were unusually quiet. Most employees had rushed home early to escape the rain. She placed her worn-out cleaning caddy on the floor, tied her scarf tighter around her head, and began her routine. Every night was the same: polish the floors, empty the trash bins, clean the windows, wipe the desks. But tonight, something felt different. A strange kind of tension floated in the air, as if the building itself was holding its breath. When she reached the 34th floor, Mr. Grant's private level, she noticed the lights were still on inside his office. That was unusual. He never worked this late. Amina hesitated, wondering if she should enter, but her duty demanded she continue. She gently knocked and pushed the door open, only to freeze in shock. There, slumped over his desk, was Alexander Grant, pale, trembling, and struggling to speak. His hand clutched at his chest, and sweat poured down his forehead. Amina's heart pounded. She had no medical training, no experience handling such emergencies. But she did have courage. Dropping her cleaning supplies, she rushed toward him. "Sir, can you hear me?" she said, her voice trembling. Alexander tried to respond, but only a hoarse whisper escaped. Amina grabbed her phone, dialing the emergency number with shaking fingers. As she waited for the ambulance, she placed a pillow behind his back, loosened his tie, and whispered calming words. She held his cold hand in hers, praying for him with a sincerity that came straight from her soul. Within minutes, paramedics arrived and took him away, and Amina stood alone in the office, breathless and shaken. She never expected to see him again. She never expected him to remember her. She certainly never expected that helping a stranger would change her own life. But destiny had other plans. 3 days later, Amina received a call from the building management. She feared the worst. Maybe they thought she'd caused trouble. Maybe she had done something wrong. When she arrived, she was told that Mr. Grant wanted to see her personally. Nervous and confused, she made her way to the hospital where he was recovering. When she entered his private room, Alexander looked nothing like the intimidating billionaire she had only seen from afar. He looked human, tired, humbled, and deeply grateful. "You saved my life," he said softly, his eyes fixed on her weathered hands. "If you hadn't found me that night, I might not be here right now." Amina lowered her gaze, embarrassed by the praise. "I only did what anyone would do," she whispered. But Alexander shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Most people don't look up. Most people don't notice. You did." As he recovered, Alexander discovered something shocking. The collapse he suffered wasn't random. His doctors told him he had been under severe stress for months. And when he looked through his business records, he learned that someone from his internal team had been making suspicious financial moves in the background, moves that could have cost him nearly $500 million. The only reason he discovered the fraud in time was because he had survived that night. If he hadn't, the conspirators would have taken everything. Amina's simple act of compassion had unknowingly saved his entire empire. Shaken by the revelation, Alexander felt a depth of gratitude he had never experienced before. His life had always been surrounded by wealth, yet no amount of money had saved him. It had been a woman society often overlooked, a woman scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans, who had stepped in when he needed it most. When Alexander was discharged from the hospital, he asked Amina to meet him at the building. She assumed he wanted to thank her once again. She could never have imagined what awaited her. Standing in his office, overlooking the city skyline, Alexander handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter offering her a new job, not as a cleaner, but as the head of a new employee wellness and support program he wanted to create. Amina, who had never held a position higher than a cleaning job, stared at him in disbelief. She couldn't speak. Tears began to fill her eyes. "I want someone with a heart," Alexander said. Someone who understands people, someone who pays attention, and no one fits that better than you. Her hands trembled as she tried to hand the letter back. Sir, I am not educated. I don't know office work. I don't know anything about programs or management, but Alexander stopped her with a gentle smile. You know compassion, he said. The rest I can teach you. When she still hesitated, he added, this isn't charity. This is trust. Amina finally accepted, her heart overwhelmed with gratitude. For the first time in decades, she felt pride bloom inside her. The kind of pride she used to believe belonged only to others. But that wasn't the end. Alexander wasn't done thanking her. At a company meeting the following week, he called Amina onto the stage in front of hundreds of employees. She walked nervously, unsure why she was being called. The room fell silent as Alexander spoke. This woman, he announced, is the reason I am alive today. And the reason this company still stands. Gasps echoed across the hall. Some whispered, others looked at Amina with newfound respect. And then Alexander did something no one expected. He handed her a certificate of appreciation along with a generous financial reward, enough to clear all her debts, pay for her father's medications, and allow her children to continue their studies without fear. The applause that followed felt like thunder. Amina stood on that stage, overwhelmed, tears flowing freely. For the first time in her life, the world saw her. Not as a cleaner, not as a background figure, but as a hero. News of the event spread quickly across the company, and soon, everyone knew about the woman whose kindness had saved their millionaire CEO and his $500 million empire. People began greeting her with smiles, offering help, treating her with the respect she had always deserved. But the greatest change was inside Amina herself. She walked differently now, not with pride, but with dignity. She discovered a confidence she had long buried beneath years of struggle. She realized that even the quietest acts of kindness could have the loudest impact. Months later, Alexander and Amina continued to work closely. He often consulted her when making decisions that affected the well-being of employees. Her simple wisdom, her grounded perspective, and her genuine love for people guided his actions in ways he had never anticipated. He helped her buy a modest home of her own, something she had never dreamed possible. Her children, inspired by their mother's courage, studied harder and aimed higher. Her father lived his final months with comfort and peace, knowing his daughter was finally living a life of dignity and security. Amina's story became a quiet legend within the city, a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes or hold powerful titles. Sometimes, they carry mops, wear modest clothes, and walk through life unnoticed by most. But when the moment comes, they shine with a light so powerful it changes everything around them. Amina never asked for recognition. She never wanted a reward. She simply believed in doing what was right. And that belief, so pure, so simple, saved a man's life, protected a fortune, and transformed her destiny. Years later, when younger employees asked Alexander why he trusted Amina so much, he would smile and say, because she saw me when the world didn't. Because she cared when she didn't have to. And because true strength is often found in those we overlook. And every time Amina walked through the halls, now not as a cleaner but as a respected member of the company's leadership, people stepped aside, greeting her with warmth. Not because of her position, but because of the story that followed her like a gentle breeze. The story of a humble woman whose kindness saved a millionaire, changed a future, and proved that even the smallest act of humanity can ripple through the world in unimaginable ways.